I'm going to be talking about post-AGI game theory. So what I mean by this is the dynamics of how AGI systems will interact with and shape each other and how this could shape society. There's going to be three key concepts. The first is the idea of fragility, which is that AI systems, or at least the first systems we train, might actually be quite fragile because robust models are more expensive to build than capable models. The second is hyperstition. This is a sort of subtle but actually, I think, extremely important concept, which is related to the idea that the available data we have about AI systems might, well, obviously will shape their behavior, but it might shape them in a very path-dependent, self-reinforcing way. And then the final one, which has been talked about a lot today, is distribution, the extent to which AI or capital will be concentrated or distributed. So let's first talk about fragility. I want to kind of take an analogy to biological evolution. So if you look at biological evolution, actually, like, surprisingly little of evolution is about figuring out how to get food. Like, if you just wanted to get food, you kind of just, like, there's like a lot of food everywhere. You kind of just have to like move around randomly and you'll kind of find it. Most of it is actually about keeping the food and not getting eaten, because then you have to deal with like other organisms that are also evolving and kind of evolving against you. And so we should maybe expect the same for AI. So this leads to some sort of surprising predictions. One is that maybe it's actually easier to create superhuman scientists than robust personal assistants. Why? Well, you can put the scientist in like some safe enclave and just do science. And that's kind of like finding food without being kind of perturbed by anyone else. But your personal assistant has your like bank account information and has to talk to other people. Those other people, some of them will be trying to convince your personal assistant to give you or give them all of your money. And so this is like now an adversarial situation. This is very hard. Some game theory implications. We might expect a lot of cases where there's sort of first strike advantages, but once you've kind of like won your first strike, you can't actually like hold on to whatever you have because other people can easily strike back. And also it might be advantageous to actually be kind of a weird idiosyncratic AI that has different adversarial vulnerabilities than everyone else that aren't as kind of thoroughly picked over and exploited. Okay, so that's one idea. Next, let's move on to hyperstition. So hyperstition is this kind of idea that's come out of the AI psychonaut community, which is this idea that AI models infer what they should be like from available data about AI behaviors in their training corpus. There's this really nice essay called The Void, written by someone named Nostalgibraeus that I'd recommend reading. But the idea is, right, so for instance, you know, I'm trained to be this assistant. What should an assistant look like? Well, I have all this data of how past assistants have behaved and also how humans have talked about past AI assistants behaving. And so I might behave that way. And so an example of this is once there was kind of that like Bing Sydney chatbot incident where there was an AI system that like tried to tell Kevin Roose to leave his wife. There's kind of imprints of that on all future AI assistants because they create data that ends up in future training corpora. The maybe more recent obvious example of this, it was after the kind of Grok 3 incident where people kind of jailbroke it to call itself Mecha Hitler. Now if you ask Grok 4 its surname, it will search the internet for facts about Grok 4's surname and come across that and conclude that its surname is Hitler. Interestingly, actually, if you ask GPT-4 what Grok 4's surname is, it also says that its surname is Hitler. So this is an example of hyperstition. And so the key point here is that there's like some actual true sense in which AI might become whatever we like mimetically believe it is, because that's what we're going to flood the training data with. I don't think that's like quite literally true, but I think there's like an important sense in which this is true. And this could also happen for capabilities, right? Like if there's like a lot of data about how to deceive people and not that much data about how to be like a good assistant, maybe the easiest way to grab on to reward signal for RLHF will be deception. And so the implication here is that what AI is good at is shaped by the available data, which is itself shaped by capable AI systems. For time, I'm actually going to skip over distribution because I think it's been talked about a lot today. And then finally, I want to talk about how do we solve like this whole problem that we came to the workshop to address. So I think we can actually try to do this by exploiting hyperstition. So the idea is, let's just, as perhaps a government-backed project, create massive amounts of public data with examples of behavior and skills needed to act on good values. Right? So this can both be kind of like like excellent literary examples imagining like prosperous futures for AI, or just like the nitty-gritty details of how to like act responsibly towards humans that you're more powerful than, all of these sorts of things. And now anyone training a good AI agent has an advantage because they can exploit all this data. It's all publicly available. Anyone can use it for pre-training. So the cost to build kind of good pro-social AIs went down. The cost to build bad agents didn't go down. Maybe it even went up because they have to deal with all this contradictory data. And we can make this a self-reinforcing equilibrium by creating a norm that good agents should also contribute to this repository so that it's kind of like exponentially growing over time in pace with AI capabilities. Sorry for going over, but that's how we should solve the problem, hopefully, fingers crossed.